fired up the launcher, opened the game, and made a new world. And it was exactly how I remembered it. Here we are. Guys, look at the leaves. Look at the grass. It's all so beautiful. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Just like the olden days. But eventually I got down to business because I only had 10 minutes until the monsters came out. And that's when I found out you can't sleep in alpha. Are you kidding me? So I went to plan B and just started mining. It's okay because you can't starve in alpha either. The only problem is that coordinates aren't shown on the F3 screen in alpha, so I had to guess which Y level I should mine. When I got to a spot that seemed about right, it was time for, you know, the grind. I had a problem. There were no diamonds. I'd been mining for a few hours at what I assumed to be Y11, so, you know, I figured I would have found at least a couple by now. I'd found a decent amount of iron, gold, redstone, coal, and everything else, but no blue stuff. I tried digging tunnels at different Y levels, but still nothing. Then I stumbled across this Reddit post. Turns out in alpha, there's a bug that makes diamonds spawn at less than half the usual rate when you're in the northeast quadrant of the world. And after going outside and looking at the sun, I was pretty sure I was in the northeast quadrant. I mean, it was hard to tell without coordinates, but I was pretty sure, so I grabbed all my valuables and got ready to move southwest. After finding some cool terrain to build a base on, I dug down and got to work once again. But I guess diamonds are just rare in alpha because even though I was supposed to have higher spawn rates, I wasn't finding anything. At this point, it had been hours and not a single diamond ore, and this called for drastic measures. I managed to find a very old copy of MC Edit and used it to see if I was doing things right. My Y level was surprisingly accurate and there were actually plenty of diamonds around me. It turned out I actually wasn't in the southwest part of the world, I just went the wrong way earlier. So my spawn rates weren't optimal, but they weren't bad either, so I decided to stay where I was. In fact, the reason I hadn't found any was because there just weren't any diamonds in the area I was digging. I went back into the game, and as I was approaching the 4th or 5th hour of mining... Oh my god. This has been the longest mining session of my entire life. I've been playing for at least 2 hours. I have been mining for about 2 hours. And I have found my first diamonds. I'm so tired. I've been looking at this. This is what I've been looking at for 2 hours. And it's a fucking 2 vein. Okay, no, thank God it's a 4 vein. Yeah, I almost had a mental breakdown right there. I mined for a little longer, but I only found a few more veins, so I decided to just make a set of iron armor and do something, I mean anything else besides mining. I mean, I had this awesome mountain scenery right there, so it was time to build something cool. At this point, I'd like to give a shout out to r/goldenage Minecraft. It's a community of Minecraft players who love the nostalgia of the early versions, and I use this subreddit a ton when making this video. I scrolled on there for a while to get the feeling for the building style, then got to work preparing the area. First, I deforested the area like I was building a strip mall, then I leveled it out. Now, this was insanely boring. I would break a bunch of blocks and then place a bunch of blocks and then break a bunch of blocks and then place a bunch of blocks and then, you guessed it, break a bunch of blocks. And of course, I couldn't sleep through the night, so every 10 minutes I would take a break to scroll Instagram Reels while waiting for the sun to rise again. But finally, after breaking a ridiculous number of stone shovels, I had a nice flat place to build. Now, I'm an engineer, it's what I'm going to college for, and I'm an engineer in Minecraft too. So the first part of any base I build is always the storage, because I usually need a lot to do all the farms I make. In the old versions, you can't place chests next to each other for some reason, so I designed a little tower with an interesting shape that will hopefully get me a lot of storage space. Then I realized there was no way I was ever going to need this much space because there aren't very many farms you can make in alpha. For example, you can't make an iron farm because there are no villagers or iron golems, and you can't make a sugarcane farm because there aren't any pistons. So I converted the building into what I call the greenhouse. I modified the structure of the building, which took a long time, and then enclosed the edges to make the whole thing a big square. My plan was to fill in this empty space with dirt to make a multi-level crop farm with a structure at the center for all my storage needs. Now, this was around the time I started wondering, what's my goal here? What do I want to accomplish? Usually, people play Minecraft until they get the best items in the game, and then they start to get bored. Yeah, I'm not doing that. What else do people play Minecraft for? Well, beating the Ender Dragon is one reason, or the Warden, or the Wither, or any difficult mob, really. But there's no Nether and no End, which makes skeletons probably the most dangerous mob in Alpha, and I've already defeated one. Maybe putting the windows on my base would be a good goal. To do this, I branched off from the greenhouse to build a room for smelting. Then I mined a bunch of sand from the nearby beach. What do you mean destroying the environment? I'm not... EPA, open up. Ah, shit. Finally, my base had windows, and I solved my home security problems by making doors. Yeah, you probably didn't notice, but my base was just open to the outdoors this whole time. Anyway, after I put on the windows, the itch still hadn't been scratched. As I continued to play in my world, making small improvements to my base and admiring the scenery, I never felt like I was done. A lot of people talk about the 2-week phase, where people play Minecraft for roughly 2 weeks until they've done everything and then get bored. But that's the thing. I think too many people play like there's a goal to reach or a finish line to cross. Even I'm guilty of doing it in this video. But those people are wrong. There's no finish line. Minecraft is freedom. You can truly do whatever you want, and that's why it's like no other game ever conceived before it. It's a simple world where you are free to create anything. So when I was trying to find a stopping point for this video, there just isn't one. I'm not done.